We're going to have a wonderful time imagining the channel. Now, I've known Peter 15 years, Peter? Yeah. And I've watched him successfully do things that are more and more fun. Peter is now driving a startup that's redefining the channel for tires. And he's the CEO, and one of the things that I love about the story is it's not only about how we sell tires more effectively, but it's the participative model of how do we build teams to do that more effectively with a focus on the customer. When I first met Peter, he was at Starbucks, and then he went to Mattel, and now he's here today. And Peter, I'm going to invite you to the stage to tell your story because I think it's a great one. Welcome, Peter, to the stage.
Good afternoon. How are you? Good. This is a great event. Laura's invited me a few times to come, and I'm so delighted that we connected earlier this year and managed to find the schedules working out, because just listening to the introduction that Laura gave just underlines why it's so important to have these kind of sessions and conferences, and some of the data is challenging and makes you worry about what we're all trying to do. But without the data, we can't really solve the challenges out in front of us. And I think one of the best things about having us all together is that as operations and supply chain people, we like to connect dots and we like to synthesize. And today I'm going to tell you the story of TireHub, not because it's 100% relevant to what you do, but because I hope it helps you make some connections about things you've seen, things you've heard, and maybe grab one or two things that you already know in your heart and you think, you know what, I should double down on this because it seems to make sense. And the great thing about our story is it's very fresh, it's very new. And I think you'll find that in some degrees will connect with what you're doing in your businesses. It's interesting that the title of the conference is Imagine, because imagine two multinational companies who have been competitors for 100 years getting to know each other and saying, you know what, we need to solve a common problem together, and we're going to have to get our attorneys around the table because we're not really supposed to talk about certain things, but we can talk about a joint venture, but we're going to have to do it really carefully because there's all kinds of legal implications. But we both have a problem, and the way to solve the problem is to start a brand new company that we own together. Can you imagine two multinationals coming together and saying, gosh, we really have to talk because we have this problem. Can we fix it together? And that's how TireHub came about. It came about because some very smart people in Goodyear and some very smart people in Bridgestone got together and imagined solving something which they'd struggled with for some time. But before I get into that, tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 20 years in the chemical industry, mostly making coatings and paints in Europe, South America, North America. I ran engineering, manufacturing, operations, did finance, did IT jobs all around the world for a company called ICI. And after about 20 years of that, I did what any normal person does after 20 years in the chemical industry. I went to Starbucks to make coffee. Quite a leap, as you can imagine. So joined Starbucks, and I was part of the turnaround team working for Howard Schultz when we turned around Starbucks in 2008, 2009, and got it back onto a growth curve, and we kind of transformed the whole global supply chain. And then following that, wasn't sure what to do. I had the choice of becoming a professional soccer player or going back to work. That was a joke. And I went back to work, and I went to work for Mattel in California. And as you know, Mattel is the biggest automotive company in the world. Did you know that? Yep, makes 550 million Hot Wheels a year. The only major car company in America that didn't take a bailout from the US government in 2008. And we've been making autonomous vehicles for about 55 years. Yep. We also made 80 million Barbies a year, 5 million American Girl, all kinds of stuff, Fisher-Price, Thomas. So I had a blast at Mattel. Mattel's a very challenging place to work because the world has changed so much. But I spent 5 years basically re-engineering their manufacturing and supply chain, and also re-engineering in my last year there, their product development and product engineering function. And then I got a call to come and set up this new company called TireHub. And the story I want to tell you is really three stories intertwined. It's the story of a startup, So that's one story. It's the story of supply chain being critical to a business strategy, and it's a story of disruption. So TireHub is about those three things happening together: disrupting the distribution side of the business, it's a startup, and it's about how supply chain can play such a critical part in redefining part of a business and part of an enterprise. And as Laura said, at the heart of TireHub is all about customer service, because we don't make anything, we have no IP, we've got no R&D, no engineering, we don't have factories. All we have, and it's a huge advantage, is 1,500 what we call hubbers, TireHub people, 1,500 people who are passionate about delivering our strategy to service customers. That's it. That's our biggest single advantage. It's our only advantage. And so that's at the heart of what we do, and that's at the heart of what we're about. So TireHub is a national tire distributor. We operate 69 distribution centers around the US. We have about going on for 1,500 employees. We're headquartered in Atlanta. We chose Atlanta because it was a neutral territory between Goodyear and Bridgestone. And we opened on July the 3rd last year. And we are the only national distributor for Goodyear and Bridgestone product in the United States. And that's what we call replacement tires, right? So when your car or truck needs a new set of tires and you go to a retailer or a dealer and you want tires, that's what we call replacement. That's the replacement business. And our job is to make sure that that dealer or that retailer that you've gone to get tires fitted has got exactly what you want when you want it. That's what we do, and we do that for Bridgestone and Goodyear. So how did TireHub come to be? What's the background to this new business? Laura actually mentioned a bit about this earlier. She talked about complexity and the tail and SKUs. Well, in the tire industry, it started about 30 years ago. There were 10 companies making about 85% of the product in the world. And now there are 31 companies making 85% of the product. So there's been, the first stage was this proliferation of companies making consumer tires. On top of that, of course, comes all the brands. So Goodyear has got Goodyear, Kelly, Dunlop. Bridgestone has got Bridgestone, Firestone, Fusion. We have a common brand called Le Mans. So there's 7 brands immediately just in our business. And then you've got all the other manufacturers that you're familiar with, Pirelli, Continental, Michelin, all these people, and other ones that you may or may not have heard of. So it started with proliferation of manufacturers. With that comes a proliferation of brands, all competing for consumer attention. And on top of that, wheels and tires started to change. So in the last 10 years, believe it or not, wheels have got bigger, wheels have got wider, profiles have got shorter. And if we did a survey of the audience here today, and we found 2 of you with the same vehicle made in the same year, there's a really good chance you drove off the parking lot, right, with different tires on the same car. Because something like an F-150, for example, probably comes with 4 different tires spec'd for that vehicle at the OE stage. So when you buy that vehicle, there's probably anything from a typical vehicle from 2 to 6 different spec'd tires that you could get on that car or truck, depending on fuel economy, ride and comfort, durability, so that as wheels have got bigger, wider, lower profile, the car manufacturers have got very much into tuning the product that goes on the wheel to your particular car and the ride. So in the last 10 years, the number of SKUs in the replacement market in the United States has doubled. It's doubled. We stock about 3,000 different consumer tires in our system, and that's just Goodyear Bridgestone. So on top of that, then, you think, okay, when I go to my dealer or my Costco or my Walmart or whoever, my Firestone store, my Goodyear store, to get new tires, you don't see a warehouse full of tires, because there's absolutely no way someone fitting tires can keep inventory of all these sizes. So think back 20 years ago, you would drive in They'd look at your car, they'd spot the size straight away, they probably had it in the back room, and they could just say, well, leave the car, come back in a few hours, I'll take care of it. Nowadays, there's minimal chance your dealer has got the tire you're looking for in inventory. Can't be done. So access to information, virtual inventory, being able to know what is in the system outside the dealer is now incredibly important. And as consumers, we like to make life difficult for retailers and dealers nowadays, don't we? Because we just expect stuff instantaneously. We just expect to get anything we want as fast as we want. Now, you hear people saying that, and I've heard it lots of times and kind of rolled my eyes thinking, yeah, that's not me. I'm not one of those people who has to have things straight away. Well, on Sunday, my wife and I were fixing the deck at the back of the house, and we discovered that the propane tank that sits on our deck for our nice fire pit, that it sits in this little steel box. Well, the box was all corroded and crappy and it's falling apart. We thought, right, let's get to Lowe's, drive to Lowe's, we'll buy a new one. Lowe's don't inventory them anymore. They don't want to. It's only $25, $40, $30 product. Katie pulls out her phone. It'll arrive tomorrow. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. She says, don't worry, it's going to arrive in time for you to fix. And sure enough, we left Lowe's at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and at 1 o'clock on Monday, the package had arrived. I was leaving at 1:30, so she was right. There was time for me to assemble it, get it all there. And you think, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So consumers are also driving what's happening in our channel and our industry because they just want to pick up the phone and say, I'm free this afternoon at 2 o'clock, will you have my tires? Right? So the whole thing has changed. Bridgestone and Goodyear, these two amazing companies, got together and said, there's something not working here. Because with all this proliferation and all these brands, how do we make sure that we are looked after in the market, that our brands are in front of people and that our products are available so that people can have access to our products? And these are two fine companies, right? Premier brands, premier products, 100 years old each, been around for a long time, recognizing the world had changed dramatically around them. And they'd created some of that change with proliferation of SKUs, with that tuning of products to individual models. But this whole thing is now getting very complicated because you can't inventory the product and consumers want to be looked after straight away. So they stand back and think, what can we do here? Well, the first thing was to stand back and say, so how does our product get to customers? And with all of this complexity in the product range, distributors had come in between them and the dealer, between them and the retailer, between them and the consumer. So third-party distribution, a layer between the manufacturer and the customer, had built up really effectively. And it's not just in tires. This has happened in lots of industries. We all know this. Distributors come along, and the great thing about distributors, they say, hey, I'll take care of all your problems. Give me all your SKUs, I'll take care of it for you. You just make the stuff, market it, we'll make sure it's available. Well, that's fine if the distributor's only got your products. But there's 31 manufacturers, there's dozens of brands, and over time, your product is getting mixed up with everyone else's, and your biggest asset, your brand, is now in a market full of other brands and competition. So how do you position and differentiate your brand and protect it in this sea of SKUs and this sea of distribution? Both companies, interestingly, had small localized wholesale distribution that they ran. They actually had a little bit of their own distribution. But individually, it wasn't national. It wasn't big enough. There wasn't the investment in IT, there wasn't the investment in digital tools, there wasn't the investment in analytics, there wasn't the investment in connectivity to the dealer, to the retailer, to the consumer. So although they had some of their own distribution, it wasn't on the scale of these third parties that were in the industry. And these third parties, while they're big, some of them are regional, some are national, they're there, they're very convenient. When you can't deliver, they're there, they want your business. And what seemed to be a good idea suddenly over time becomes a bit of a problem for you. You want your brands to be first and foremost, you want your customers to be protected, you want to guarantee service, and you want to make sure that you're winning on the merits of your products and your brands. So change was required. That's when the imagination comes into play. People started to imagine this differently. And instead of saying, gosh, the channel to market is these wholesale distributors, some people started to ask a different question and say, oh, hold on. If we don't enjoy the way this now works, how can we change it? How do we change that? And the answer was,
this is one story about two tire companies, their history, their breakthroughs, how they became part of America's heritage, and how these companies were instrumental in America's automotive industry. These companies have been leaders in sports marketing from its earliest days. And today they're seen in venues everywhere. And both companies have become part of our culture. These companies are leaders through their premier product line, by making smart decisions and expanding worldwide when the time was right. And now their story is part of our story. TireHub, created for tire experts, by tire experts.
and so TireHub was created by Goodyear and Bridgestone. Brand new company. It's pretty cool, actually, to have a brand new company formed and you're there. But let me tell you the hard part of it. So what happens is when you decide to form a new company, and it's a joint venture, you take 500 people from one company, and you haven't asked their permission. You take 500 people from another company, you've not asked their permission, and you take 35,000 customers, and you certainly haven't asked their permission, and you say, don't worry, we're just going to change all of it. We'll take you 500 and you 500, we'll put you together, we'll call you a new company. That's that taken care of. And then the customers will, it wasn't as simple as that, of course. But we created a brand new company in this backdrop of complexity, but also think about what it's like to be one of those 1,000 people to suddenly be told you're now part of something brand new, is going to do something very, very different, and you're a customer of that, and you hear this and you think, whoa, what's happening here? What's happening? I've been doing business this way for some time. It seems to work for me. What are you doing? So this is never going to work unless there's some kind of advantage. There's got to be something that we're doing differently. And the pressure we felt as we built this out, ready to go live in July the 3rd last year, was we've got to make sure from day one that we are a different kind of company. That we're not just a test or a trial or a joint venture that two companies come together and try something. We are a new company, a new identity, a new culture. What are we all about? Now, we did have 3 advantages to begin with. By adding this all together, we had a national footprint, so that was a big change that wasn't there before. With that, you get the scale and increased size and customer base that was there joining these two together. And also, we were going to make sure that we had an in-house distribution team. There wasn't going to be very much third-party involvement at all, so that we would hire our own drivers, and we would make sure that TireHub operated with company-owned drivers, company-owned vehicles, and that we would control everything from the minute we get the order all the way through to the delivery to the customer. And that's different from many of our competitors, and it's different from what Goodyear and Bridgestone were doing beforehand. So we started with these kind of 3 innate advantages: national footprint, immediate scale, and a model that said it'll be our people representing our company, talking to the customer, face-to-face with the customer every day. But that's not enough. Because the thing about standing up a company like us, and I share this with you because it's part of the reason why we've started to be successful, is because there's these 3 things that happen to come together by forming this new venture. We have the energy of a startup. And you say, well, you're not a startup. You've got all these people. It's a startup, trust me. Right? When you build an entirely new ERP system, right? when you build a completely from scratch business-to-business portal. You go find an office in Atlanta, hire 100 people from scratch to man up the central office. You've got to get your head of HR to go and build out a whole new benefits program in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. You've got to enroll 1,000 people in the benefits program so that all 1,000 are in place on day one. Yep, you've got to do all of these things. You've got to then take all of these distribution centers and say, you've only got Goodyear, you're now going to get Bridgestone. You only have Bridgestone, you're now going to get Goodyear, and you double the number of SKUs in all of these boxes across the country. You look at a map and you think, I've got 83 distribution centers, 15 of them overlap, so the first thing you have to do in the first 6 or 8 weeks is close 15 out of the 83 without customers noticing, right? You're doing all of this. Your model is you're going to have only company-owned drivers, but guess what? It takes time to ramp up to start hiring people from the outside, as you all know. So no matter how good your hiring partner is, you've got to augment that. So you start to go backwards a bit because you've got to use third parties to help you buy time to do all this. This was a startup. This was absolutely a startup. And if you talk to some of our customers, they'll tell you it was a startup because not everything went completely smoothly as you'd expect. It's also the complexity of a joint venture. You've got two multinationals as your shareholders, 50-50 shareholding. We have a board with people from both companies. We have an independent director as well. I chair the board. I'm the CEO. You've got the common strategy. But Goodyear and Bridgestone, while they're similar, they are two different companies. They are fierce competitors. They have different nuances, different culture. They take risks in different ways. They do things in different ways. So you've got all of that complexity and fun that comes from being a joint venture. Then added to that, we have got to be successful. This is a massive throw. This is a massive change in the industry. This is not for the faint-hearted, so we have to have the focus of being like a PE firm, where we've got to have the strategy nailed, we've got to stick to the strategy, and it's got to work, right? Every day, every week, every month, we've got to be on strategy, delivering growth, delivering customer service, delivering the best available products into the industry. So it's fun, because you get that energy, you get the focus, you get the complexity, you add it all together. This is not like anything I've certainly ever done before. And the place we started before we went live was to spend a lot of time crafting our mission and vision and our promise to customers. Now, Nikki's here from our communications department. Nikki runs communications for TireHub, and we spent so much time over these words, didn't we, Nikki? Right? Every word was sweated over. And whether they impact you the way they impacted us, there are certain words within that really matter to us. Because to us, this is about getting our customers the product they want so they can satisfy their customers. So right at the start of this is, that we want to distribute the highest quality product possible so that our customer can put their customer on tires they'll love. Not any old tire, tires they'll love. And so already thinking about the next layer, not just our customers, the customer after that. Because if we don't think about that, our dealers, our customers won't be successful. The word transform was really important to us. Our vision is to transform how the tire meets the road for dealers and customers across America. You think, well, I'm just going to go and get 4 tires. Can it really be that complicated? So stand back and think about this. If you're an independent tire dealer in today's world, where Amazon's there, all this stuff's happening around you, you've got Walmart.com, you've got Discount Tire, fabulous company, the world's biggest tire retailer. You've got Costco, and you're a private, independent car dealer, right? Tire dealer, and you want to be successful. There's a place for you, but you want a supplier who cares about you, right? You want a supplier, us, who wants to transform, not just to blow the thing up, but to help you be successful, to make sure that this sea of change that's happening in our supply chains isn't missing them out because they're one of our customers. So we're dealing with Discount Tire on one end, and we're dealing with a mom and pop store on the other end. And all of them are helping satisfy your needs when you decide you need a new set of tires. Then our promise is that provide customers with tires their customers will love, grow their business, grow the dealer's business, help them be successful, and give people a real choice so they've got the full range of Goodyear and Bridgestone product. So let me tell you about the 4 things that are kind of guiding what we're trying to do here. In the past, before we were formed, and you had this world of distributors between Goodyear and Bridgestone and their customers, many of those distributors had maybe 30, 35, 40 different brands. All we have is Goodyear and Bridgestone. So our job is to make sure that the full power of those brands and products are available. So we've got to expand access to these brands so that it's available and that we make sure that these premium brands are positioned right and are championed by us and they're not competing with someone else's product. We've got to deliver excellence. At the end of the day, no matter what we do, if the customer doesn't feel us turning up on time every day, 4 times a day, if you're within 25, 20 miles of our DCs, you expect 4 deliveries a day on time. You expect the driver to appear with a smile on his face. You expect the truck to be clean. You expect great technology so you know what's available, so you know if it's going to be, if we're short, when exactly you would get it if we were short. So there's got to be a logistics excellence part of our business. We've got to create value for Goodyear and Bridgestone. They wouldn't do this unless we're creating value. What is that value? It's growing. It's making sure we're growing their share in the United States, making sure they get their products positioned well enough, delivered well enough, connected well enough, so that they grow market share. And that we reduce this reliance on third parties. That we are the preferred arm of our shareholders because our customers prefer us. Not because our shareholders prefer us, but we've got to make sure our customers prefer us because that's what allows our shareholders then to say we don't have to rely on other people. Most people do that the opposite way around, don't they? I'll feed you this business because I want you to be successful. No, the customer will decide, are we being successful? The more successful they see us as, the easier it is for us to grow and expand. Now, the thing that you know about so well and why you're here is because supply chain is changing as well. Technology is evolving all the time around us, whether it's drones, as Laura mentioned, whether it's autonomous vehicles, which obviously impacts the way our industry is evolving, but the technology is evolving all the time. We've talked about this already, consumers demanding real-time satisfaction. So being able to communicate, connect with our customers and then with their consumers in real time, make sure things are satisfied fast. That's what it's all about. And then connectivity and fulfillment, faster than ever before. So all of these forces are driving together. And that's why I said at the beginning, this is a story about disruption in an industry, a story about supply chain changes, whether it's connectivity or fulfillment. And it's also a story about a startup, about a new start, and about culture and how you build a new company. So, what does TireHub do differently? Now, you'll want to just pause for a second here, because this is profound, right? Everybody got their cameras ready? Take a picture of the slide. This is the secret. This is it. Are you ready? Okay, all right, this is going to blow you out your seats, right? This is the big, big thing. This is what we do differently to other people. I didn't go down as well as I thought it would, Nikki. Should have done this slide differently. This is it. This is all we do. At the heart of everything we talk about in TireHub, basically in TireHub, you have to have permission to say no. You do not need permission to say yes. We're a business where the only way you do well if you're a distributor, if you're a merchant, right? That's what we are. We're a merchant. The only way you do well is you have to learn how to say yes to customers. And to say yes to customers, you've also got to learn how to say yes to each other, right? So let's tell you a little bit about saying yes to customers.
What's the one word that every customer wants to hear? At TireHub, it's the word we live by every day. And it's the summation of everything we believe. To us, that word is yes. Yes to the best breadth and depth of Bridgestone and Goodyear brands. Yes to covering of 97% of vehicles on the road. Yes to an online experience that simplifies and improves your business. But anyone can say yes. At TireHub, yes means more than just premium products, leading technology, and fast delivery. We have a mindset and passion for customer service that goes all the way to our customer's customer. Because we know our job is to help you say yes to your customers. TireHub, created by by tire experts for tire experts.
That's the big secret. So what does it mean saying yes? What does it mean saying yes? So when you start up a new business and you have all these dynamics of people coming from other companies and you build the whole thing from scratch, there really is a natural energy that comes with it, right? It's kind of crazy. So you're starting something new, you've got new branding, new logos, you're closing things, you're opening things, you're building new IT, you've got a whole new portal that you've done all this stuff to. You're giving great benefits to people and people are excited about that. There's all this energy. So the question we asked ourselves at the beginning was, how do we find ways of ensuring that that energy is real every single day? And it's dozens of tiny things. It's not big things. But saying yes became part of that headline about who we had to be. Because there's another line that we use in TireHub, and that is, if a company could smile, that would be us. Right? Now, I'll tell you a quick story. Are we taping this? Yeah. You know what, Chris isn't going to be happy with this. But early on, one of the senior leaders who was working for me before we went live, we came out of a meeting, and he came into my office, and he said, you don't seem very happy with me. I said, well, I'm not. And he said, why is that? I said, you need to learn to smile. He said, excuse me? I said, you don't smile very much. And he goes, well, that's because I'm a senior leader, right? I'm important. I said, well, you know, gee, that's actually not going to work. Because if we're going to be a saying yes company, saying yes implies something positive, and something positive, it kind of implies smiling, doesn't it? Do you see the kind of connection? And by the way, and if we can't smile to the customer, we certainly won't be smiling to each other. And if we're not smiling to each other, we certainly won't smile to the customer. So this all joins together. It's about how do we create energy. And that's why the word saying yes really matters to us. Because we have to create from scratch a culture and an environment where we find it easy to say yes, and we find it easy to have a smile on our face. Because if a company could smile, that would be us. And you think, that's a bit corny. But think about it. We have something like 800 drivers. And if you're delivering tires to the same place every day, and it was your car dealership or your retail store or your tire dealer, do you want the driver to smile or not? You probably want the guy to smile. You want him to do the job well, show up on time with the tires, with the right paperwork, but you probably would appreciate that the person appears with a smile on their face. And he or she is not going to appear with a smile on their face unless they're treated in a manner that makes them want to smile. And it just works all the way through the business. So behind everything that we do is this expression, saying yes, that you have to have permission to say no in TireHub, but you always have permission to say yes. Easier said than done, and we're not perfect by any means, but that is behind what we're trying to do, because at the heart of what we do is customer service. Now, what else is behind saying yes? Laura mentioned this already. We cannot afford in our business to have any kind of silos between sales, technology, and operations. Our business would fail, and on the days we do fail, it's because of silos, but we have set out purposefully to say we cannot have silos in this business. It will not work. Well, why not? When you're growing 35% a year, there is not time for people not to be aligned. There is not time for people to be fighting their battles. There is not time for people to take, positions. And I'd also say to you, if you're growing 1% a year, you really can't afford to have people working in silos. So part of what we've attempted to do at TireHub, and again, these are examples. This is not us boasting. This is saying things to think about. Is on day one we said we have got to find a way of not having silos between these core functions. We don't want them between any functions, but these three things have to work together for us to be successful. Why? Because our sales team has to be out there helping us grow this business as fast as we can. Part of making that happen is to have the best connectivity with our customers, whether that's through APIs or through our portal. For that to happen, we've got to have the different specs of different customers. We've got to be able to move fast. And none of that matters if the operations team doesn't have the right size of box or the right product available or the right delivery schedules or the right drivers and staffing and headcount. So if there's any tension, let's change that. If there's the wrong kind of friction between these three groups, we simply cannot deliver our strategy. So saying yes to us translates very much into saying, how do we help these groups say yes to each other? Because if these groups say yes to each other, there's a really good chance we'll say yes to the customer. And how does that show itself? Seamless technology. How do you get seamless technology? We need to listen to the customer. Salesforce needs to be part of it. We don't just leave it to the tech guys, who are fantastic, by the way. We've got a great technical team. We've got to have outstanding product availability. Just because of the mechanics of what we inherited, we have to turn our inventory eight or more times a year. Because when you take two people's products together, So when you take two product ranges, put them together, you've immediately doubled up the inventory of the business. So we cannot run at the inventory levels other people run at. So we've got to run at least twice the industry average inventory turns, but we cannot do that and then have really bad availability. So for us, the secret to our success is having high turns and higher availability than anyone else in the industry. And then none of that matters if you don't make the right frequency of deliveries. So we've got to get this combination right of great seamless technology, great visibility to our products, great availability and replenishment, and then frequent deliveries on time. All of that from scratch. And that then is what defines what we would then say is customer service. That's what defines saying yes. So we can't say let's have fewer products, because that doesn't help the customer. We can't say we're going to be slow to put in new technology, because it doesn't help the customer. We can't be maximizing or optimizing our routes for cost. We've got to optimize them for service, then we'll go manage the cost and get the cost out afterwards. So that's what we're trying to do. And what I'd like to do now is just share a clip with you of some of our people, just a minute-long clip, them talking about what they need to do to help make this happen.
I always like to challenge my team to know our customers better than they know themselves. And that's a requirement for us to provide those levels of customer service that will then differentiate us in the industry.
For starters, no one in the industry has put together an end-to-end dealer and consumer experience. And if you want to leapfrog the competition, we must use technology to do two things. One, improve the tire buying experience for our customer, the dealer. Two, improve the tire buying experience for our customer's customer, the driver, or the consumer.
Providing what the customer needs and helping our customers win for their customers. When we provide great customer service, it's a competitive advantage for us.
We are a customer service-driven organization, and we need to check that. We're really a customer experience-driven organization, and we will succeed by taking care of our customers' individual needs by saying yes, one tire at a time.
So when I lay out all these things, the real reason I wanted to come and talk with you and take up Laura's invitation was that it's not often in your career you get the chance to stand up something from scratch. Certainly this is the only time I've ever had to stand up something completely from scratch. And you have all these ideas in your head, and you've all got them as well. You've all got these ideas where you say, if I was doing it from scratch, this is what I would do differently. If this was my business, this is what I would do. I believe customers are really looking for X, Y, Z. I think our culture should really cover these 3 or 4 things. So one of the reasons I really wanted to come and get a chance to talk with you is not to be boastful, and if we have been boastful, it's only because we're so excited about what we've done in the last year. It's to share with you that your instincts are probably 100% right. Your instincts are probably 100% right. Your instinct around customer service is absolutely right. Serving customers really needs to be at the beginning of everything, because when you do that, lots of other good comes from it. Secondly, that your instincts around making sure that people collaborate and you don't have silos is absolutely right. By the way, I'm not telling you how to fix these things. I'm just telling you how we did it. Silos. Your instinct that we've got to have people working together is absolutely right. Your instinct around connectivity and data and how you use that to understand what customers want and to be connected with customers, absolutely right. You're 100% right. And there's other things, I'm sure, as well. And so my first message to you would be, trust your instincts, because we have had the chance at TireHub in the last year, in a largely evolved and mature business and industry, to do something from scratch. And we chose to do it a certain way, and we are absolutely getting rewarded for following those instincts. Absolutely getting rewarded for it. But most importantly, and you've all got this instinct as well, it's about the people. It's, in our case, about the hubbers, right? We've hired 500 people in the last 8 or 9 months. We're up to close to 1,500 people. We had 1,000 people, without asking, pushed into this joint venture. With all those things which could easily have made you just say, we're just going to drive this mechanically to day one. And all our instincts said, let's make sure we trust the fact that this will only happen because of the energy and the focus of the people that we've got, and encouraging them and inspiring them every day. And we've been paid back 1,000-fold. We've been absolutely paid back 1,000-fold by our people in terms of the energy and the passion and the commitment they've brought. Just last week, we had a customer who was a little bit concerned because after all the changes that had gone on, they said, with all these changes and all that's going on, how do I know that my customer statements and my credits and everything's right? This is a smaller customer. And you think, well, it all goes through the computer system, so it must be right. That's not an answer, is it? So somebody was talking about this. I didn't know anything about this. And we have an accounts receivable person in Florida, because we have them based around the country. And she heard that this one customer had asked this question. So she got in the car the next day, drove to the customer, small customer, and said, give me every one of your invoices since day one. This was 2 weeks ago. So this was 13 and a half months of invoices. Said, just give me all of them, and we'll go through it line by line together. Shall we do that? She wasn't asked to do that, wasn't told to do that, wasn't encouraged to do that. She just felt the right thing to do was sit with this customer and go through every line of 13 and a half months of business. And at the end, the customer said, oh, yeah, it's correct. Thank you very much. And you think, you can't teach that, right? You can facilitate it. And so the other instinct I'd ask you just to consider is, trust your instinct that it really is the people. People make things happen. Systems don't make things happen. Data don't make things happen. Machines, factories, they don't make things happen. People make things happen. And if you were to think of TireHub being a bit of an experiment over the last 13 months, we've learned a few things. Customer service, absolutely. Right? Look after customers. They will reward you for it. Think about your people, right? Obsess about them, and use the word unleash. We talk about unleashing them. Unleash your people. Trust them, and then trust those other instincts you have around the systems, the technology, the data, all those things. But at the end of the day, if you focus on the customer, focus on the people, don't have silos, have a common purpose of what you're trying to do, there are great rewards. And we're sharing this not because we think we've got it all right, we really don't, but because we think the story of being asked to disrupt an industry, stand up a new company, and do it in the context of it being essentially a supply chain business. We think it's an interesting story, and one that in some degree will resonate with most of you in some part of your business, I'm sure. I really appreciate your attention. I really appreciate the chance to be here. And if there's any questions or anything I can help with, I'd be more than happy to do so. Thank you so much.
Well, Peter, why don't you stay on stage? And it's my hope that when people draw Supply Chain 2030, that their pen starts with the customer.
Yeah,
I'll have to be sure that we send you those slides. What questions do you have for Peter? I thought it was wonderful for him to come. Many times supply chain leaders think that they can't cross into the channel, right? And I've had so many clients that have asked me to come and speak about customer-centric supply chains, and I say, tell me about your customer, and they're like, well, Laura, I don't know my customer, right? But you know your customer.
Absolutely.
And you're crafting the journey. What questions do you have for Peter? This is such a rich story in so many ways. Peter Benson.
Yeah. So
Peter, before you respond, I just want to restate the question, but I'm going to do it much shorter because we're being webcast, right? The question is, customers today have access to a lot of data. How does that change the customer experience?
Yep.
Yeah.
So some of the data which is not so readily available, but it's there in the if you look hard enough, is why were those tires specifically designed for your car, right? So that's a piece of data which probably should be encouraged more, that as you go through that first, second, or third replacement, you ask the question, was there a reason why Ford, GM, Chevy, whoever, spec that particular tire for this particular car, whether it's durability, gas consumption, ride comfort, whatever. There's another piece of data as well, though, which is that a lot of people think about who do I trust rather than the price or cost of the tire. So obviously there's a group who are much more interested in the data and the cost, perhaps. But there's also a group who say, I really trust Joe's garage, and so I'm going to go to Joe, right? So their instinctual data is, because I trust Joe, that's where I'm going to go, and Joe will then advise me, right? Now, where that gets interesting for us is that because we're the only national distributor for Goodyear and Bridgestone, when we talk to that customer, that dealer, Joe's Garage, they're not hearing us compare our products to 30 other products necessarily. They're hearing us explain why these products are good products. What they're used to sometimes is other distributors coming and saying, I know you asked for this, I can get you a deal on this. So even though you're going as a consumer with your data, the distributor may be influencing that dealer to go with a different choice because there's some other back-end package benefiting someone. So that information is not readily available to a consumer, obviously. So there's a lot of background data around why certain products are being pushed and what advantages there might be either for the dealer or the distributor for pushing different brands on different days. And it could be as simple as, I'm overstocked on this brand, so when you ask for this, I'm going to try and push that because I'm a bit overstocked.
So not
I think
all
it's a complicated
customers,
bunch of things coming together here.
not all customers are data scientists
No,
like Peter,
no.
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter, may not be the common demographic. Other questions? Yeah, Dan? Oh, the biggest failure, Peter.
That'd be quite straightforward. It's all about systems, right? The amount of work you have to put in to get the IT working flawlessly. That is not, I wouldn't call it a failure of the team. It's that we had a very tight timetable because this was kept secret. This whole project was kept secret. And between going public and going live was 16th of April to the end of June. So what's that, 2.5 months? So there was a lot of work done before that, but the critical part of time that we had was 2.5 months. So there were certain systems we knew would not be fully ready on day one. And although you know that and you're prepared for it, actually responding to it is much harder. And I don't think we were as well ready as we could have been to acknowledge that certain things would not be 100% ready on day one.
Let's turn Dan's question around. What was your biggest success?
Absolutely, people being on message, aligned on day one.
And smiling, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you a quick story behind that. So we're building a whole new benefits plan. Obviously, it's a new company. And we decided as a leadership team there had to be 100% sign up for benefits, 100%. And if you take industry averages, it's not 100%, right? But we said, if we are serious about people coming and joining this business, we will contact every single person individually if we have to make sure they've signed in, they've logged on, they've got their password. And even if they've chosen not to take the benefits, they have to have signed up and said, I'm not taking them. And we actually got 100% participation in our first year's benefit plan. And that to us was a sign that we were getting to people and showing them that we were serious about their engagement in the business.
Brian, you had a question?
Small example.
Yeah, I was just curious, with multiple organizations, I think one of them is a little over 100 years old, the other one's almost 100 years old. There had to be fierce loyalty to those brands because Goodyear's everywhere, Bridgestone's everywhere. What cultural issues did you face as part of this, and how did you deal with, kind of the mid-air passenger exchange that you were trying to engineer?
We actually thought it'd be worse than it was. We thought it'd be harder than it was, right? And I think part of that was because these small distributors that had been set up by Goodyear and Bridgestone were not mainstream to their business. So although they had a lot of instinctive loyalty to their parent company, they had not been the mainstream part of the business. So I guess it was a little bit easier to maybe win people over. Making sure that we had a national sales meeting before we went live was very important. Making sure we completely over-indexed on communication. As Nikki will tell you, we massively over-indexed on communicating with people. We have TireHub Tuesdays to share information with people at every distribution center. So our whole Hearts and Minds program before we went live was not perfect, but we definitely tried to over-index on that to ensure that we had the best chance. And to be fair, people showed up with a great attitude. We got less concern and anxiety of the Goodyear versus Bridgestone part than we ever thought. It was much, much less. And that's not down to me or Nikki, that's people just showing up as good human beings.
I think people underestimate just communication, right? People don't necessarily get it the first time. Yeah. It takes many times.
Yeah, it does.
When you say over-index, what did that look like, Peter?
Well, things like TireHub Tuesdays, all the way leading up to go live, and then every Tuesday since then, we have an organized communication system so that every one of our employees has access to messages that week about what's happening, whether it's enrolling for benefits, whether it's some new program that we've got, something to do with our results. We just make sure there's a systematic way that every week every one of our people can have access to updates and information.
So TireHub Tuesdays, what do they look like?
It's really Nikki's area.
Nikki, what did TireHub Tuesdays look like?
So we have a deck and we have a call with all of our teams across the field in the TLCs, or even if we have employees that work remotely. We have a call where we bring them in and we give them the information that Peter's talking about. So we share very general updates with the company, things they may need to know from an HR, from a sales perspective, what we're doing with our targets, what's going on with some of our customers, what's going on in sales and marketing, and we give them the resources, whether it be SharePoint, things that are going on via email, but just resources to be able to make sure that they're tuned into the information that they need.
And how big's the communication department?
Just one.
Just one. Okay, so she's pretty busy, eh?
Oh, yes.
And what did you learn in this process?
Definitely people show up and creating a culture of transparency, a culture of having everyone all in, having everyone unleash is critical to it. I think the communication about being really transparent and, as Peter saying, over-index, being very frequent to make sure that people know what's going on and have them aligned with where we're going has been super important, and we're seeing kind of good results in spades because of that.
Awesome. Peter, thank you so much. And I'm hoping that we have a new paradigm, that we say yes.
Absolutely.
And that we embrace our customer. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.